Let's have the fourth type of function. We have the radical functions. So first, let's have condition number 1. Y is equal to the square root of a linear function. So it's if the form is y is equal to the square root of ax plus b, the domain is the set of all x greater than or equal to negative b over a, where b is the constant and a is the numerical coefficient of the leading term. And its range is the set of all y's greater than or equal to 0. Now, if the case is y is equal to negative the square root of ax plus b, our linear function, then our domain it's the same with the first one, the set of all x greater than or equal to negative b over a, but its range is different from the first because its range is the set of all y's less than or equal to 0 because of this negative sign. So let's have example number 1. This is a radical function whose radicand is a linear function 3x plus 5. So y is equal to the square root of 3x plus 5. So let's find first the domain. So this falls under condition number 1 because the radicand is a linear function. Okay? And under condition number 1, it falls under the first case. Okay? So we have the first case, so where this 3, the numerical coefficient of the leading term, is our a, and this 5 is our b. Okay, so we'll make use of these values of a and b to find its domain. So the domain is the set of all x greater than or equal to negative, our b is 5 over our a is 3. And so we have the domain. Meaning, this radical function is defined only for all x greater than or equal to negative 5/3. Otherwise, if x is less than negative 5/3, this radical function is not defined. Kasi mangyayari ngayon, yung value natin sa radicand magiging negative, and there is not the value for y is not a real number or not defined. How about for the range? So the range is very easy. The range is the set of all y's greater than or equal to 0. That's it. So how about example number 2? Okay, for example number 2, we have y is equal to negative the square root of 3x plus 5. They're almost the same except for the sign. Okay, so the domain is the set of all x. So this falls under this case. The set of all x greater than or equal to negative, our b is 5 over a, which is 3. That is our domain. But its range is the set of all y's less than or equal to 0. Let's have condition number 2. So y is equal to the square root of any quadratic function. Okay, so we have two cases under condition number 2. Y is equal to the square root of x squared minus r squared. If this is the case, then the domain is the set of all x less than or equal to negative r, or x is greater than or equal to r. And the range is the set of all y's greater than or equal to 0. For the second case, y is equal to the square root of r squared minus x squared. The domain is the set of all x greater than or equal to negative r, but less than or equal to positive r. And the range is the set of all y's greater than or equal to 0, but less than or equal to r, where r is any constant. Okay, so let's have example number 1. Y is equal to the square root of x squared minus 4. So this example falls under condition number 2 because our radicand is a quadratic function. And this example falls under case number 1. Okay? Case number 1 kasi mas nauna yung term na may variable x, then followed by the term that is constant, which is minus 4. So first thing is, we will express this in this form. So we get y is equal to the square root of, so actually it's x squared minus our r. Square root of 4 is 2 squared. 2. Raised to the power of 2, we have 4. Okay, so our r is positive 2. Therefore, our domain is the set of all x less than or equal to negative. Our r is 2. Or x is greater than or equal to positive r, which means positive 2. So if we are to sketch the real number line, para makita natin kung anong hitsura ng domain ng radical function na to. So say we have a number line. Okay. So say we have this negative 2 and we have positive 2. Okay. So yung domain natin dito are the set of all x. Sorry. Not this one. But we'll make use of bracket. Okay. The bracket kasi included, negative 2 is included in the set because of this equal sign. So lahat ng mga x values here are part of the domain. Okay. Negative 3, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, all the real numbers less than or equal to negative 2 are part of the domain. And likewise, all x values such that x is a real number greater than positive 2 are also included in the domain. Okay. Except for the x values between greater than negative 2 and less than positive 2. These values in between these elements are not included in the domain. Okay, so yan ibig sabihin ng domain natin. Anyway, ito din is part ng domain. So, ang domain natin is the union of these two intervals. Okay, ito pwede natin siyang isulat as this interval refers to negative, it's negative 2 to negative infinity, then union positive 2 to positive infinity. This is the domain of this radical function. Now how about the range? So the range is the set of all y's greater or equal to 0. Okay. Let's have example number 2. Y is equal to the square root of 4 minus x squared. So this example falls under condition number 2, again because the radicand is a quadratic function, and this also falls under case number 2 because constant yung nauna na term sa radicand natin, followed by the term that contains the variable x. Okay, so we know that this refers to r squared, which implies that r is equal to positive 2. Okay, and so the domain is the set of all x greater than or equal to negative r, which is 2, but less than or equal to positive 2. Okay, so I'll show you how this domain looks like in the real number line. So say we have this real number line, we have this negative 2 and positive 2. So our domain is the set of all x values greater than or equal to negative 2, meaning greater than or equal to negative 2. So we make use of bracket kasi equal for equality, which means negative 2 is part of the domain, but the domain is restricted only to x values less than or equal to positive 2. It's positive 2. So lahat ng x values between or in this interval are part of the domain. Okay? And then the range of this radical function is the set of all y's greater than or equal to 0 but less than or equal to our r is positive 2. Let's have the fifth type of function. We have the absolute value function. The general form is y is equal to a times the absolute value of bx plus c plus d. So the domain of an absolute value function is the set of all x in the real numbers. And the range, there are two cases under the range. First is the range is the set of all y's greater than or equal to d if a is positive, or range is the set of all y's less than or equal to d if a is negative. So let's have example number 1. So we have y is equal to the absolute value of x. So what do you think is the domain of this absolute value function? So the domain is the set of all x which is a real number or in the real number, meaning any value of x in the real number is defined in this absolute value function y. Okay, say for example our x is 1, positive 1, y is defined. If our x is a negative real number, y is still defined. Or if x is a rational number, say 3/4, y is still defined. Okay? So for all values of x in the real numbers, y is defined. So that is why our domain is the set of all x in the real numbers. So no restrictions. How about for the range? So the range of this absolute value function is the set of all y's greater than 0. Meaning, our y's are all positive. Okay? So this absolute value function y is equal to absolute value of x is defined for all positive y values. Let's have example number 2. Okay, so let's have example number 2. Y is equal to negative the absolute value of x. Okay, so the domain is the set of all x in the real numbers, because this is y is defined that is real for all values of x in the real numbers. How about for the range? The range is the set of all y's less than or equal to 0. Okay, so let's have example number 3. Okay, so we have y is equal to 3 times the absolute value of x plus 5. Okay, so sa form natin, you know that 3 is our A, 5 is our C, and we have value for B which is 1. Okay, the numerical coefficient of the term x. Okay, so the domain is the set of all x in the real numbers. How about the range? Okay, so take note, our A is equal to positive 3. So our A is a positive number. So we'll make use of the first case. So the range is the set of all y's greater than or equal to equal to 0. Why 0? Because wala tayong value for D. Meaning, meron ditong plus 0. Kasi yung first case natin is y is greater than or equal to D. So in this case, meron tayong plus 0. Let's have example number 4. Okay, so we have y is equal to 4 times the absolute value of x minus 3 plus 2. So our domain is still the set of all x in the real numbers. And our range is, okay, so anong case kaya to? Since our A, which is 4, is positive, then we'll make use of the first case. So the set of all y's greater than or equal to our D is 2. Okay, let's have last example. Okay, so we have y is equal to the absolute value of x squared minus 3 plus 2. Or the absolute value of the quantity x squared minus 3 plus 2. So the range is, the domain is the set of all x in the real numbers. And the range is, so this falls under case number 1 pa din. Okay, since a is positive, and we know na meron tayong dyang 1 na multiplier. Okay, so the range is the set of all y's greater than or equal to 2. So that's it for absolute value function.